Hello, I'm Jordan, you're not. Now let me tell you my tale. So in May 2012, Tim Burton gave us his masterpiece, Dark Shadows. So I liked the movie so much that I went back to the theater and saw it again. So Dark Shadows is a movie about a bewildered, befuzzled vampire in 1972 who was born in the 1700s. Now, that's what I like. I like fish out of water stories, much like Fox. When Fox gave us Sleepy Hollow, I like that story about Ichabod Crane coming into the present day time and fighting evil. So, after I saw the movie, and so I wanted to watch the original series, all of Dark Shadows. Now, I knew that was going to be pretty expensive. Now, originally, I went to Walmart and they had Dark Shadows, The Best of Barnabas. It only had maybe 10 episodes on the whole disc. So that was enough to kind of tide me for a little bit, but I wanted more. So actually, the very first episode I ever saw was episode 221, where Barnabas goes to the Collinsport Hotel and has some coffee with Maggie. And so then I bought if you see my earlier, like way back, my earlier videos in 2012, I bought the beginning collections 1 through 6, I believe. They had the beginning collections, then they have just the regular collections. So collection 1 is actually when Barnabas shows up, which, like, oh, okay. So I watched it all the way through. It took me about 11 months to watch the whole series. And I became obsessed with it. I bought all of Laura Parker's books. I bought Angelique's Descent. I bought the Salem Branch. I bought Wolf Moon Rising. I got the Dark Shadows Almanac. I got Dark Shadows Return to Collinwood by Catherine Lee Scott. And I got this for Christmas, Dark Shadows, the revival, a couple years back. I have House of Dark Shadows. I used to have Night of Dark Shadows, but I got rid of it, but now I kind of want to buy it again. And I've recently got Master of Dark Shadows. So yeah, you can kind of say I like Dark Shadows. So since 2012, that's when I got into it. I've thought, how cool would it be if they did a sequel series? And then TNT brought us Dallas. They brought Dallas back because of the original Dallas series. So then I thought that would be really interesting. They brought Dark Shadows back. Make it like a continuation or a sequel. Call it Collinsport, Maine, or something. And now recently, it's been announced that the channel, the CW, is going to do a continuation / sequel to Dark Shadows called Dark Shadows Reincarnation. Oh my gosh! I'm so excited! I'm so happy! I've wanted this for 7 years. This is like a dream come true for me. Like, I can't even right now. You don't know what my feelings. Okay. So, this is so exciting. So there's the Mark B. Perry, I believe is his name, is gonna write it or do the first episode, and they have the permission from the Curtis estate. I believe Dan Curtis's daughters are behind it. They're gonna be executive producers on it, and that's I guess that's a good sign, right? That the sibling from not a sibling, the whatever, that they're going to come back to help with this new show. That's got to be good, right? I mean, so what all could they do with it? I mean, it's not a remake, and it's not like a reboot. It's a sequel. I guess it's going to take place 50 years later. I guess it could have, I don't know, the son or the grandson of David Collins, or they could have the son or grandson of Barnabas Collins, or I'd like to think Barnabas and Julia finally hooked up. He always kept her like in the friend zone because he was always after Maggie because she was like Josette reincarnated. Then he was after Victoria one time. Then he was after Roxanne Drew, and he would just always just keep Julia in the friend zone. That's really sad. I guess that's like he kept Angelique in the friend zone. Yeah. Okay, so if they can bring back uh, Larry Hagman for Jr. or Patrick Duffy for Bobby Ewing or Linda Gray for Sue Ellen Ewing in the Dallas universe for that, then they sure as heck can bring back Catherine Lee Scott as Maggie or David Selby as Quentin or Laura Parker as Angelique maybe somehow. This to say they've aged or like I think Quentin he had like everlasting life from the portrait that Charles Delaware Tate drew of him in 1897 to get rid of the werewolf curse. But maybe they could say like somehow over the years, like of the 50 years, that some kind of damage has gotten to the portrait, and say so that's kind of what made him age some. And I don't know, maybe have Maggie. Let's see, what could Maggie be up to? She went to Wincliffe for a little while, but I guess they could say she's safe now. She's okay if she's because of when the whole Gerard Stiles was taking over Collinwood. I kind of like to think that maybe since she was good to David, like she became David's second governess after Victoria Winters, that they paid her some pretty good money, and she, I don't know, then like maybe there's like some young hunky guy who's like in his late 20s, early 30s, trying to make the moves on her, right? And maybe he kind of happens to look like Joe Haskell, and she's kind of like she's into it or something. So have make Maggie a cougar or something. And then let's see, where it comes to Barnabas, I don't think Barnabas should be in it. Not the original, like Jonathan Frid's, his, that was Barnabas. That was Jonathan Frid is Barnabas, other than the Johnny Depp one or Ben Cross. That was his name, right? Ben Cross. I don't want to get anything wrong. Yes, Ben Cross from the '90s remake series, which I've been rewatching actually. So maybe someday I'll do a review for the '90s remake, which I've already reviewed Tim Burton's remake. Okay, so yeah, I don't think Barnabas should show up at all. Like, if anything, like you talk about him, yeah, talk about him all you want. Show pictures of him, like that original portrait that was in the foyer of Collinwood. Just show him, but don't actually have someone come in replacing him be like Barnabas. I mean, he'd probably be like in his 80s or 90s by then, wouldn't he? Because as far as I know, I thought he was free of his vampire curse. Like back when left, he left 1840 and came back to 1971. Like, you have Barnabas have a son or a daughter or a grandson or a granddaughter and make them like the main stars, and just mention them like, oh, my father Barnabas, something like that. And of course, they should bring back the original theme song, which the movie that everyone loves it didn't have it. It didn't have the theme song. What's up with that? And I kind of watched a little bit of the 2004 remake show that they did of the pilot that didn't make it. I don't think they played the theme in that either. So you got to have the theme song that. That was terrible. I'm sorry. I don't do a good Dark Shadows theme. My bad. Um. Yes. I think maybe like one of the Collinses, like the new Collinses, they should be like running for Congress or something. And then there's like this detective doing like extreme research on their family history, and then maybe if we finally have them say that Victoria Winters was in fact Elizabeth Stoddard's daughter. Like, I know it's been said off screen. I know they've actually, there's been an interview with Joan Bennett talking about, Elizabeth being her daughter, but it's never actually been said on screen in the show. It's just, we never really got answers. That's how it actually all started with, Victoria. She just, or I call her Vicky for short, that, she was wanting to find out about her past. And then about 600 episodes later, they get rid of her. I was kind of talking to someone. I was talking to someone earlier on my Facebook about the parallels between Dark Shadows and The Walking Dead. Now, stick with me on this. So, Dark Shadow starts out with Vicky looking for her family, or well, not family, but just like finding out who she is. And then Walking Dead starts out with Rick Grimes trying to find his family, and he's like the main character. And then in season 9, he's off the show now. He's done with. And so maybe Rick Grimes and Victoria Winters are kind of like they were the main stars, but then no, like, and then I compare Barnabas Collins to Negan, the main big bad villain that came in Walking Dead season 7, Jeffrey Dean Morgan. He's awesome. I love Negan. So Negan was a breath of fresh air for Walking Dead, and then and Barnabas, I feel like, was a breath of fresh air for Dark Shadows, because at the time Dark Shadow was it was a dying show. Like, I don't think hardly anyone was watching it. Like, they almost canceled it because they did the death of Bill Malloy, and then they brought in Laura the Phoenix to kind of add some supernatural elements into it. I think it was almost going to get canned, and then they brought in Barnabas, and that's when Dark Shadows just took off. It became awesome, full of monsters like ghosts, witches, parallel time, and a Frankenstein monster creature thing. Adam? So think of how what they could do for this new show. They could bring in parallel time again. They could bring in time travel with the I Ching. They can do more seances. They did like 1 billion seances on the show anyway. And have vampires, have witches. Just it's unlimited to what they could do for this show. And I really hope it comes to life, and that we get this show, because this needs to happen. I need this. I've watched the series all the way through twice so far in the 7 years that I've known this show. So please, if someone from the CW is watching this, Mark B. Perry, or the CW president, please let Dark Shadows Reincarnation happen. I need this. Dark Shadows fans need this to continue on, much like Star Trek The Next Generation did with Star Trek. I never really watched Star Trek that much, though, so I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, so I guess that's it. Y'all should really buy this book. It's really good. One more thing I need to show you. I have the Dark Shadows movie poster right here. Yeah, with Johnny Depp. I got this from the theater, and they just let me have it because I really liked the movie, and I was the only one that wanted it because everyone else hated it for some reason, but I don't get it. Oh, and speaking of Negan, there he is for September. So Negan is like Barnabas, not really, but he's not a vampire, but he's okay. All right, thank you so much for watching.